Welcome to another video. Today I want to show you how I made this bed. I'll be using white oak lumber and pre-finished plywood. So pretty much I'll be using two sheets of plywood. I'll just clean up the edges so that I remove anything that would have been banged up from being transported. And with the two sheets of plywood, I'll sandwich what will make the cubbies. Right here, what you see me doing is cutting the what's gonna make the walls for the cubbies, and I use a stop block. I only use double-sided tape to hold it down, and that way I can cut all the cubby walls to the same size. After I'm done cutting, I'll be just sanding down the edges to remove any splinters, and then I'll continue to put them together. And I know from this shot it might not make sense what I'm doing, but these pre-made holes is what's gonna hold down the cubbies, as you can see here. And these holes, you're not gonna see them because it's gonna be inside a very large cubby as well. Before putting in the screws, I did make sure that my walls are a perfect 90 so that I don't have anything out of alignment. And hopefully with this shot makes a little more sense what I was talking about. Now I'm gonna put the first sheet of plywood, which is gonna be the one going on the bottom, and then I'm gonna put these right in the middle to make the cubbies. And once I'm done setting this one where it's gonna go, then I'll sandwich it with the other sheet of plywood. But for now, I use my beautiful wife to help me turn it around so I can put some screws down, which is gonna be what holds it together. Now I'm not using glue for obvious reasons. This is pre-finished plywood, so the glue obviously wouldn't do any good. The piece that you see me installing now is what's gonna be where the headboard would be, I guess you could call it. And it's a little bit bigger because it has to cover the plywood edge at the bottom. And my son is figuring out how we're gonna install some LED lights while I cut this piece that's gonna make the other side of the cubby, the other side of the bed. Now this piece that I'm installing is gonna be towards the wall, so you're never gonna see this area, which for which reason I'm not using white oak at this point yet. To install the LED lights, I notched a little bit with my Japanese balsa, and this is how they're gonna be going in there. And the reason I'm putting them like this is because one LED light's very long, so it can illuminate two cubbies at the same time. And now it's time to put the piece of plywood that's gonna be going on top to sandwich everything in between. And again, screws only are strong enough to hold everything together. And that piece of cable right there is gonna be where the connection for the LED lights comes out to plug into the wall. And now to complete the bed, it's time to cut the piece that's gonna go towards the feet. I guess you could call it the footboard or whatever you want to call it. I don't know what it's called. Anyway, I'll be using this piece of white oak plywood, which I will cut out the this area so that the plywood doesn't show, and this is gonna expose the very large cubby that you see here to my right hand side that runs the whole length of the bed, and my son's gonna use it to put his guitar cases and stuff. For this application, tape is strong enough to hold it in place until it um, dries, but here's a better shot of the whole thing so you have a better idea what it's looking like. And now for the face frame, I'll be using solid white oak put together by pocket holes, and this is gonna make it look good and cover the plywood so you don't see that. To install the face frame, I do use regular wood glue and rat nails to keep it in place while the glue dries. Later, I will come back with some wood filling and fill in the little holes, which are not a lot, but this will create a better visual effect. And with these little pieces of plywood, I'll cover the plywood edge here so you can't see that. It'll look better. And here's a small visual of what the headboard's gonna be looking like. Basically, it's another box made out of white oak because this one will be visible, and these are the dimensions pretty much. And there's not much science to constructing a plywood box, so I'll just let you see what I did. Now, I will say preparing for any glue up or any place where you're gonna be using glue, it's always a good idea to be prepared, like I did here. I put my clamps and my square clamps in place so that after I put the glue, I can just tighten the clamps and then drive in the pocket holes. Now, again, these pocket holes are gonna be towards the wall, so you're never gonna see them. Um, However, the inside of the cubby my son will see, so all you see from inside is all white oak, as you can see from here. And this is a better idea of what it's gonna look like. Of course, I still need to do a little face frame on where I'm standing there, which is what I'm gonna do now. But same situation, just use a couple of pocket holes, make it first, then install, and it's always easier this way. And while I work on this face frame, if you think about it, on my left hand side where the mattress is gonna go, if you just put a mattress on there, it's gonna slide everywhere because it's pre-finished plywood and it's very nice, very smooth, very slippery. So I'm gonna be making kind of like a frame over the whole box out of white oak, and this is gonna keep the mattress from slipping out of its box to make it a little more appealing or not boring enough. I just mitered the corners and it's it's better looking, I guess. But it this will also cover the plywood edge right there at the footboard. And at the same time, I'm also putting this piece with rat nails to create a little bit of pressure while the glue dries. Of course, in case it's not enough, I'll use a lot of clamps to make sure it dries in place and that there's no gaps in between. And before moving on, I'm gonna create a box to lift the bed a little bit off the ground. This is gonna ensure that it stays flat, that it doesn't move around, because if you put plywood on the ground, it could possibly or more easily slide. But this is gonna ensure that it's a little bit higher, give it a little bit more of a pleasing aesthetic. And for the front and footboard of the bedside, I will be using white oak because you can actually see these areas. But for the areas underneath the bed that you cannot see, I'll just use pieces of plywood, leftovers, I guess you could say, to make the rest of the box. And again, to put it together, I just use pocket holes. I spared you the filming of making the pocket holes because we all know what making pocket holes looks like. To make the rest of the box that's gonna raise the bed, using a stop block to make sure I cut the pieces evenly, and using clamps and holes and scrap wood to space it evenly. This makes the job a lot easier and a lot more perfect. Once I'm done making this box, I round over the edges on the bottom and on the sides, because once I install it, the lip of the front is gonna prevent me from using my router. Um, but using again pocket holes, I attach it to the rest of the bed, and here is what it looks like now. This is gonna be again under the bed. Can't see that part, but right there where my thumb is, that's gonna be the bottom, and you can see there's a small step inward, and that's gonna be a little bit more pleasing to look at once it's turned around upside down, like I'm gonna do here. I was a little nervous to do this by myself, because it's sitting on a plastic table and it's quite heavy, so if it fell down, I don't know what could have happened. But anyway, I proceeded to round over the rest of the bed and continue towards the end to attach the headboard box to the end. I'll be using dominoes. This will allow me to take it apart if I need to, and remove it in the future if we need to move the bed, but I will not be using glue. This is gonna ensure that I can actually take it off. And here's what it looks like. It's basically just, it just goes in as if it were dowels and holds it in place, because it's a very tight fit, and it's very secured. It won't go anywhere. Once I'm done with this piece, it's now time to work on the desk part. I wanted to make the desk out of solid oak, because knowing kids, they're probably gonna scratch it, they're probably gonna jump on it, they're probably gonna throw things at it. And this way, if anything happens, if any of that happens, or they spill something, I could just sand it or leave it as is and give it, what do you call it? Character. Yeah, it'll give it character. But anyways, using again domino helps me align it and prevent me from doing too much sanding. Now what you just saw was what's gonna be over the desk. It's gonna cascade with this. So this that I'm gluing now is pretty much the feet of the desk. If it doesn't make sense, just wait a little bit. You'll see. It'll make sense. Now, before I glue this piece, I forgot to square up both ends. So instead of using my jointer, I attached the level with double-sided tape to make sure I cut one side very straight, and then turned it around, removed the level, and cut the other side straight as it could be, to make sure we continue on a good path, a good nice path. I decided to do a small chamfer on the inside of the desk, just so that it doesn't look boring, just as you see here. And obviously this is the legs, so I will do it to the desk part as well. And once that's done, I cut the edges on a 45-degree angle with my cross cut lead, and I will be using the domino joiner to join the two pieces again. I'll be using the domino joiner because it's easier to put it together without the two sliding once you add glue. If it was a regular plywood, you could probably get away with using tape only. But before actually putting glue on it, I decided to do a little bit of sanding and cut it to size. That way, it'll be easier, because once it's put together and glued, it's gonna be kind of hard to cut it to length. And even though the dominoes makes it easier for me to glue it, I'll still add a couple of clamps to make sure I get even pressure for the glue to dry. And once the glue is dry, I will put it in place and make sure everything lines up. I will sand down the corner, make sure I remove any glue that was left behind. I wanted to incorporate a little something special for my son, so I bought this connection plug for my son to charge his iPad and stuff. But I had to cut out this area with the jigsaw and then make it perfect with the router. But this is a nice small surprise for him. He didn't know I was gonna do that for him. I also made this slot for his pencil for when he's doing his homework. It reminded me a little bit of when I was a little kid in school in Mexico, and our wooden desks had a slot for the pencil, so it kind of brought back some good memories. And now we're approaching the finish. And for the finish, I will use Ruby Monocoat to finish this desk. Um, it's a Ruby Monocoat clear or pure, I should say, but I did the bottom area first and then I turned it around and did the top. Guys, if you are liking this video so far or it's serving at least as entertainment for you, please consider subscribing to my channel. It helps me a lot and I really appreciate it. Also, don't forget to check out some of my other videos, and I have some more content ready to come out pretty soon that I'm sure you will enjoy. After I was done applying the clear to the whole bed, there was only one more thing to do, and that is to put this little door with rare earth magnets and a piano hinge, and to install the electrical plug for my son. And with this, there was nothing else to do but take it to my son's room and install. And here's some shots of what the finished product looked like. And I hope you guys enjoy this video. I really learned a lot. It's my first time making something like this. I didn't see it anywhere. I came up with a whole idea myself of something my son wanted and needed on his room. And again, guys, if you guys enjoyed this video, I really hope you consider subscribing to my channel. It would be greatly appreciated. And until the next time, take care, guys.